Hello and welcome. It is finally time to deep dive into Goa trance and psychedelic trance. I am honored that you will follow me on this journey, and now it is time to fly. So today we will deep dive into and create the signature sound of Goa and Psy Trance using the Korg Volcas. But first, as usual, a bit of electronic dance music history and deep dive into the origins of Goa and Psy Trance and see how it all started. It is kind of hard to pinpoint the exact starting point of Goa and Psy Trance since it's kind of a moving target. But we'll try to cover at least all the important parts of history that shaped this sound as it is today. The origins of this genre is actually already in the hippie movement in the 1960s and 1970s. But back then the music was called psychedelica or psychedelic rock. However, already back then, they used synthesizers to create psychedelic sounds, and especially they used synthesizers to create some psychedelic sound effects to play between the different songs during the live acts. A really good example of this is On the Run by Pink Floyd, released in 1972. That was created using an EMS synthesizer called Synthi AKS. You know what, let me add some TR-909 drums on top of that and we'll listen again. Yep. Definitely very close. However, it would take around 20 years before anyone actually tried to do this. But also, already in the 60s, the hippies were interested in the spiritual culture and the mysticism that happened in India at the time. So they traveled there frequently, and especially Goa was a destination to travel to if you wanted to experience this spiritual culture and mysticism. And they traveled there so much that actually a psychedelic rock scene emerged in India in the 1960s. But then during the 80s, the hippie movement slowly declined, and also the rock music was somehow replaced by electronic dance music. And inspired by acid house, techno and trance, they started to have raves. And the purpose of these raves was mainly to do what ancient cultures had been doing for a long time, to use repetitive high-speed music and dance to these rhythms to come to a kind of trance where you could experience out-of-body experiences of a spiritual kind. And at first, acid house and techno and trance was mainly played at these parties, but slowly the movement created its own signature sound, where they also added influences from psychedelica and from Southeast Asian Oriental music. And this music was mainly premiered in parties in beaches in the area of Goa. So that's why the genre is called Goa trance. Then when Goa trance became very popular in the 90s and parties was being arranged globally, both the music and the name slowly evolved into psychedelic trance, or simply as Psy Trance, which is the shape of the music still today. So that was the history. Now it is time to create our own signature Goa trance sound. And we will start with the drums. And I am going to start to create a kick drum that is very important in a Goa track. There is no specific drum sound that is mandatory in a Goa track, since Goa and Psy Trance was inspired by many earlier electronic dance music genres like house, techno, or trance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Volca drum here to create a unique kick sound. And then I usually start with the very first parameter setting, which is basically a sinus source, a sawtooth modulation, and a sawtooth envelope. And then it sounds like this. So first I'm going to turn up the mod amount somewhat. Maybe a bit too much. Cool. And then I'm going to turn down the pitch a bit. And then I'm going to turn up the modulation rate. And now I can adjust the amount to get the sound that I want, basically. Yeah, that's pretty good. So then I go into edit step mode. I just add a 4 to the floor beat. And then I can adjust different parameters. I can, for example, adjust how much drive I want to have. I think a moderate amount of drive will be enough. You can also adjust the release slightly to get the sound you want. Good, that's our kick sound. Then I will also add a hi-hat sound. I will send it also to the waveguide, and I will turn down the tune very much for the waveguide. This creates like an echo effect. And I will do the same for the hand clap. And now when I create a beat, it will give it this cool delay effect that were typical for trance. Good, there we have a good start. And now I will also add some hi-hats from the Korg Volca beats, simply because I really love these hat sounds, like I've said before. Closed hat, and just add to every step in the sequencer. And at some steps I will add also open hat, just to create some variation. And together it will sound like this. Cool, now we have the drums. Next I will do the bass line, and I will do that on the Korg Volca FM. I will start here with a preset that's called Chevy bass or cheesy bass, I don't know actually. If you know, please write it in the comments. And I will just alter this slightly by modifying the modulator decay and also the velocity slightly. Then I will record a quick patch. And a really good idea is to reduce the tempo. So I will reduce the tempo to 100 beats per minute. It will be much easier to record quick patterns. Yes, that would be cool. And of course we will need some acid for our Goa track. For that I will use the Korg Volca bass. And I will just start with a very simple Volca bass sound. And then I will switch to unison mode by pressing Funk and M3. And then once again turn down the tempo to around 100 BPMs to make it easier to record. And once again I will use the Korg Volca drum here as a metronome. And now I can turn up the tempo and listen. that will be excellent. And last but not least, we will do some melodic elements on the Korg Volca keys. But first some music theory. As we said before, Goa trance was usually quite inspired by Southeast Asian culture, and also then Oriental scales was typically used in the music. So if we demonstrate, so our most common scale in the West is the major scale. Or we could go with the minor scale. But if we do what we call a minor harmonic scale, then we get what is also called Arabic scale, that was used quite a lot. Or even better, we can go with the Oriental scale, that sounds like this. So then the music basically writes itself, just follow the Oriental scale. So let's record some patches then on the Korg Volca keys using the Oriental scale. First I will switch to 5th mode, and then I plan to record something like this. Okay, let's turn up the tempo a bit and play around a little bit with the filter cutoff. Yes, that is very Goa trancey. So, now I think we are ready to jam. But just some quick comments before we do the jam. First of all, thanks a lot everyone who subscribes. I'm beginning to think maybe I can reach 2000. That would be crazy. Let's see if we can make that happen. And also, before jamming, some comments on how to build a Goa and Psy Trance track. So in modern house music, you typically build a track more like build up, drop, break, build up, drop, break. And it just goes on like this, constant build up, drop, break. In Goa and Psy Trance, it was more about the slow progression, like constant rhythm pounding, and like slowly as transform the sound into different landscapes, and basically was a constant build-up. Maybe you did a build-up for 3 hours and then no drop, just a break and a new build-up. So you had a whole evening of just build-ups. So now when I do my Goa Trance Jam, I will not be in a hurry. I will just play the different sounds and slowly just progress the mix. And it should be repetitive, but also it should somehow keep it interesting, so constantly like transforming the sound into different places. I think that's what it's all about. At least that's how I like to do my Goa trance mixes. And also, I have not mentioned really any great Goa trance artists in this episode, and there's a reason for that, because it will just take too long time to list all great Goa trance tracks. So what I will do instead is I will have a special episode where I basically do a top 10 countdown of my favorite Goa trance tracks and Goa trance artists. But now it is time to jam. Let's go.